Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our series, Building Your Legacy with Life Insurance. My name is Marcella Mullen Williams, and I am joined with Mark Mullen. We are the co founders of Legacy Builder Group, where we help you build wealth with purpose. So, we're bringing this series to you in honor of Life Insurance Awareness Month. And what we'll be doing is having a series of conversations specifically around legacy building and life insurance. So continue to follow us, follow the conversation so you can learn and take as much out to help you develop the behavior to build your legacy. So, Mark, let's have this conversation. And I'm so glad we can do this. We're always talking and having, our own personal conversations. And I know we decided to say, hey, you know what, let's bring this to the world. Let's kind of bring our internal conversations to a larger platform where people can learn and kind of debunk some of the myths about life insurance, give more understanding about legacy planning and how the two go hand in hand. So, thank you. Thank you for joining.
Well, thank you for creating this opportunity because, like you said, we talk about this so much. And now that it is, Life Insurance Awareness Month, I think it's even more critical that we take our conversations and bring it to everyone so that they can be benefited from it and everything. So where do you want to start? Because there's so much to cover, right?
There really is. Because we are talking about building your legacy with life insurance, I think it's important first to establish an understanding of legacy. Like I say now, I got this from someone, so I can't take credit, but I say the problem people have with communication is that they think they're having it.
Yes.
And a lot of that issue comes with not understanding words that are being used, body language. There's so much that comes with that. So I always like to start with defining words, having clarity so we know what we're talking about. The word legacy is thrown around so often, right? Like Mark,
Yes.
we hear the word, we named our company Legacy Builder Group. So I hear it all the time, but honestly, people have different feelings about that word. So I know for you and I, when we think about legacy, we work with the definition of legacy being how other people will experience your existence. So when we're talking about building your legacy with life insurance, we're talking about building a platform, building something real so that other people will experience your existence through this platform. Does that sound right to you, Mark?
Oh, that sounds 100% correct to me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And to add on that, I think it's very important, since this is Life Insurance Awareness Month, that even with life insurance, people don't realize that that is a powerful tool to continue or start a legacy for a lot of people. They look at it, and I know we'll go into more detail about this, but they look at the death benefit and think that's the end. But
Yes.
for you and I, we are very aware that that's really the beginning or a continuation, depending on where they are in their family legacy, right? So I just wanted to touch on that real quick.
Yeah, no, we're going to go into that a bit more because those are kind of some of the things that we struggle with, and especially when it comes to life insurance, people get so it's like all they think is death. Oh,
Yeah.
it's this life insurance is taboo. It's about death, and going back to legacy, it's when you think of legacy, there's living legacy and there's posthumous legacy. And so often, again, life insurance is looking at that posthumous side
Right.
and not really thinking about the living part of it. So we'll touch on that, but I can't help but to think about, and Mark, you may remember this, that early on in our career in the financial industry, we've been doing this for over 15 years. When we started off with just life insurance all by itself.
Right.
Now we do, investing and comprehensive financial planning. But when we started in this industry, we were just, life insurance agents, all, young and bushy, bright eyed.
Right. Barely know how to spell life insurance. Yeah.
And we were making house calls. The days we were making house calls, and we met with this one couple. And I will never forget what the husband said to us. And you may remember this. He said that pretty much when we were talking, having the conversation about life insurance, he said that he's just going to let his family fend for themselves. He's wasn't interested in life insurance,
Right.
and I believe that was around his that superstition. I think it was more like a superstition, just the fear of the conversation around life insurance, because it's like, oh, and you could touch on this. Let's talk about this, because, and I'm sure our listeners can add to it. So, to the listeners, as you're listening, I would love for you to add in the comments, wherever you're watching, whatever platform you're watching this, share your ideas about life insurance, the things that you've heard growing up, the things that have been passed down with you, both positive or negative. But there are a lot of negatives. So this gentleman, uh, I believe his fear around this was had to do with dying early. Like, something about him felt that if he had life insurance, that either it's like putting a seal a seal on his deathbed,
Yes.
or they're going to kill me off early, or like
Right.
they're going to take my money. Is that what you
Right.
got? Is that what you remember?
Well, it's funny where you're bringing up this story here because not too long ago, I want to say maybe even last year, I had a
Mhm.
conversation with someone, and there's even some cultures that they don't really talk about life insurance because at the end of the day, people don't want to talk. Some people don't want to talk about death, and if you
Yes.
bring it up, it's almost like you're bringing it into existence, which is funny to me because there's one guarantee we all as human beings have, that at some point we're going to pass away, right? So it's not something that we're going to avoid, that we can eliminate from our life. No, it's a part of life. So when I hear people don't want to bring up that conversation because it's like it's bringing it into existence, well,
Mhm.
it's I think people need to understand that it's not as if we are trying to kill you off. Okay. That's not what this is about. Think of it like auto insurance, right? Even though in some states it is law, your goal is not to have an accident, but you have auto insurance in case something happens. You can protect yourself, your vehicle, and so on. Same thing for
Yeah.
homeowners insurance, right? We're not claiming that you'll have flood or tree damage or storm damage. But in case something happens, you want to protect that asset, right?
Right.
Well, those things you hope it doesn't happen. But when it comes to your lifespan, that's going to happen, right? There's no
Right.
ifs, ands, or about it. It's going to
Right.
happen. The question is, all you're doing is preparing for the inevitable. But the
Correct.
plan and the
Yes.
way we plan our life insurance policies for a lot of our clients, it's not just death. We also talk about living benefits. So we want
Mhm.
to take care of the living and the death when it happens. So
Yes.
I think people need to understand that we're not bringing it into existence. We're planning for when it does happen 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. That's all we're doing so that you can check that off your box. That's one having the conversation now. No, I don't have to think about it anymore. We're done.
Exactly. And I'm so
Yeah,
glad you brought that up, because you're right, it is inevitable. Yeah, we do put these priorities on all these other life circumstances, and prepare for that. But the one thing that is certain to happen is what we spend so much time avoiding, or what we delay on. And look, there's not enough CMOS, eating right, collagen, whatever in the world that's going to stop this from happening.
exactly.
It's
Exactly.
it's happening. And it doesn't have to feel like something bad, or feel like something morbid.
Yes.
You and and we grew up in a household where our mother taught us, that tomorrow's not promised. And so death wasn't this taboo conversation. It was something to embrace, because by understanding death, we embraced life more.
Exactly.
To this day, people are amazed about our relationship. Now, one thing I didn't share is that we are brother and sister. If you didn't notice by the last name,
Right.
yeah, we are brother and sister. And people are amazed at how our relationship is, how we get along, how we work together, how we never fought as kids. We had a harmonious life, and I always attribute it to mom,
Yeah.
how she raised us, because we embraced life, we understood life and love, and we appreciated each other because of that. That was the benefit of understanding death. Understanding that tomorrow's not promised. You prepare for that. In preparation for that, you take every day of value. You make it valuable, and we made it valuable through love and caring for one another. So that's just, again, it's all about perspective. Our perception forms these things. It is not what it is.
Mhm.
Life insurance death is not what it is. Life insurance is a beautiful, I call it a love note, a love
Exactly.
note to your family members. So and we'll touch more on that in another episode, as far as the behavior and some of the things that condition our minds and ways that we can learn to really understand it from a legacy perspective, because that's going to be key in understanding how life insurance truly can be used to build your legacy. It's really developing the legacy mindset
Exactly.
doing that. So that's why I'm glad you kind of hit on that a little bit and making sure that people understand what that is. So I brought up our story a little bit, and I kind of want you to let's touch on that a bit, because no, people aren't here to listen to us talk about our history, but I one of the reasons we do what we do is because we practice what we preach. We understand that we went into this industry for the purpose of helping people build legacies through life insurance. And we realized it was like one of the most powerful tools to do that. Yes, we do provide other tools now, but we are still passionate about what we do with the use of life insurance, because we believe in it, because we live it, because we've created a family unit, individual family units that understand legacy building and how this can be done. So with our history about life insurance, Mark, you have a story. You've been through it. There's a lot that can be told. So like, just share a little bit, because I don't want to do all the talking.
I'm fine with that, but but I
I
am
know,
here.
as the quiet one in the family. Uh, just
uh,
share a little bit about that so people can get a different perspective.
okay.
Mhm,
And we're talking about my first marriage,
mhm,
specifically. And one of the things that people, and I've fell into that category, that especially when you're younger. So for our younger audience, we have this sense of we have our whole life in front of us, that we're almost invincible. There may be some adults that way as well, and that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But what if the unexpected happens? And
mhm,
that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that in planning, that you just prepare yourself as much as possible. I would say it's impossible to get every nick and cranny, but you want to optimize the possibilities as much as possible.
mhm,
So in my case, I was what, 26 or 20, it's just 26, 27, something like that. And just got married, was expecting a son on the way, and also had a daughter. We also had a daughter, and the pretty much the month before my wife at the time was getting ready to graduate from Salisbury State University, um, she was involved in a car incident where she lost her life. And fortunate for me, I got to see her I saw her that morning. This was in where we were living, and then she drove 2.5 hours to Salisbury because that's where she was going to school. And so that evening, I got a call from a physician telling me that my wife had passed away from a car collision. And without to get into the details or anything like that, I was in shock and everything. Here's the thing: in the matter of less than, let's just say, in a matter of 12 hours, I went from a husband with one and a half kids, I had one and another one on the way, had my whole life ahead of me with my family to being a widow and a single parent. In 12 hours, I went from one end of the spectrum to another end of the spectrum. Now, fortunate for me, I had some support. I had support from both sides of my family, from my church and everything. But even with that, it was life insurance that helped me continue with my life. And granted, I wish I can say I had that wisdom, but I didn't. It was my wife's mother who had a life insurance policy on her. And because of her wisdom, our daughter was able to still do the things that she needed to do to develop and to grow and to become the woman that she is today. And I was able to facilitate that. So because of the wisdom of her mother, my mother-in-law, life insurance was in place. But if I had the foresight to be able to see how that would benefit, oh my goodness. I mean, I would have gotten one of myself. Not to say that I knew that was happening, but the what if factor.
Yeah.
And just to add on top of that, the life insurance of back then, or our parents' life insurance, or our great great grandparents' life insurance is so different than the policies today. The policies today are so powerful because not only do they cover you in case an unforeseen passing, but also while you're alive. And I know we'll have another session just on this, but while you're alive, it benefits you today. And that's the part, Marcella, that really has me excited. And I can't wait to really talk about that piece in itself. But what my mother-in-law did is she created a legacy
Mhm.
by covering her daughter, my wife. What she did is if something happens, her legacy will still be able to take care of our daughter.
Mhm.
And that is power. So we talked about being able to, well, Marcel, let's do this. Let's really quantify the definition of legacy again. Let's go back to legacy because,
Okay.
like you said, it's thrown around so often, right? So just let everybody know again, what is that definition of legacy?
Yes, it's how other people will experience your existence.
Excellent. I
Yeah.
just like the way you say it.
Thank you.
So
I love saying it.
So right. And other people experience your existence when you're no longer here physically, right? So
Yes.
even though you're not here, our daughter and myself, we were still able to experience what she had for our daughter and for myself.
Mhm.
It's like she was still here supporting us.
Yes, that's that
Even though
existence.
physically she's not here, right? And I
Yes.
think that's what people really miss. It's that if you have your loved ones, you want to make sure that, or maybe you don't care, but I don't think that's the case. I think people just don't understand that what is this really doing?
Yeah.
Well, and that's where we come in, right? This is where we
Yep.
really try to help people understand it. No, it's not money, right? And I think too many people are fixated on the money. No,
Yes.
that's not what we're doing. That money is a tool. What we
Mhm.
want to do is bring out the purpose. What is the purpose of this benefit? And that's what we want to really help people discover, right? Does
Yep.
that
There
make
you go.
sense?
Yep. There you go. I mean, okay, you said purpose. Okay, so you said money. And that's so important because I think that is where we get lost in
Yes.
translation. We talk about legacy. Again, this conversation, we're hitting heavy on legacy. And as Mark said, we're going to get into the details of life insurance, the living and and death in the next episode. But we're going to really make sure that you understand and kind of shift some mindsets here today so that you're prepared to receive the remaining information that we have for you, because there's no point for us bringing the details or any technical aspects of building the legacy when you're not even mentally prepared to receive it, because you
Exactly.
are not, your thinking is incorrect, or your thinking is outdated. So we're going to set you up to properly receive and understand the information that we're going to bring to you. So that's why we're going to talk about legacy. And one of the things that I try to make clear to people is understanding about leaving this legacy. When we look at money, so I heard someone, I've had this conversation so much lately. I even had a meeting with one woman who absolutely, she heard me speaking as a guest on someone brought me on one of their clubhouse chats, And I talked about the definition of legacy, that her mind was blown away. She never heard that before. And for once, she felt connected to the word. She never liked the word legacy before, which I've never heard. But she's never liked the word legacy because she, as a single woman with no children, she felt like she had no legacy to leave. She felt excluded from the conversation, from the legacy conversation. And by understanding this new definition of word of legacy, then she felt, wait a minute, I have a legacy to leave. And when we only look at legacy as a money thing, then we do ourselves a disservice. And when we only tie legacy as far as insurance to money, we're doing our family a disservice, because what you're talking about is an inheritance. An inheritance you pass down monetarily to your family, to your children. But a legacy is so much more than money. The term I like to say is an inheritance, if not properly structured, can destroy a family. A legacy builds a family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you know the difference. So many of us are out here talking about an inheritance. And yes, it is important, but inheritance without an understanding of legacy tied to it is destructive.
Mm-hmm.
An inheritance by itself, it can be destructive. And that's what we need to understand about life insurance. We've seen the harm of people who come into windfalls of money, and without a legacy tied to that, we've seen the destruction, right, Mark? We've experienced it, just the
Yeah,
thought of money coming.
exactly. I mean, as you were talking, I couldn't help but to think, legacy is like a blueprint or instructions,
Yes.
on how to manage their inheritance, right? Versus an inheritance is just the vehicle, right? So imagine giving, as a matter of fact, this was actually a thing that a child, think of a high schooler,
Mhm.
giving a high schooler a Ferrari. Okay. Giving this child a Ferrari. Here's the keys, and you go about your business. You've done your job.
Yeah.
Well, you're really setting up that child that has no experience for driving, maybe had their license for 2 months. And you're
Hmm.
giving them one of the most powerful vehicles on the planet, and you expect that everything's going to be fine. And okay, they should just be able to figure it out for themselves, right?
Right.
Or same scenario, they still get the Ferrari, but it comes with a master driver that's teaching this child how to drive this car, how to handle it, the ins and out of it. So that way, when they are behind the wheel, instead of them being a risk,
Hmm.
now they're being a master of that craft because the
Yes.
instructions, the legacy was attached to
Yes.
it. I think that's what is missing, right? That we're
Yes.
just passing on, and you're kind of left to fend for yourself
Yeah.
versus passing on, and let me show you how to build on top of that. So the next person you
Yes.
pass it on, you just keep elevating.
Mhm.
These are not new concept. It's just what
Yeah.
we're doing is we just want to bring it to the everyday person.
You better
That's
tell
what we want
people.
to do here. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, you would use fancy car examples because we know how you love your cars.
Right. I didn't say model. I just said,
I know, I
it's a
know.
typo.
But it was a great illustration because
Mhm.
you're talking about something beautiful that could be very destructive if not providing the framework
Exactly.
built on. So, yeah, that is what we're talking about here. And we need to understand that. I see it all the time. We're so caught up in the just the products, and life insurance is a product all by itself. It's a good product all by itself. But the reason we're doing this series is so you can understand this product used as a tool, how to actually, use that fancy car, that Ferrari, how to drive it to create what you really want, whatever that desire is. Because it's not money. Money
Right.
is not what we want. You know,
Right.
nothing but a piece of, it's just currency, energy, whatever you want to look at it. It comes, it goes. It's not even real. Money's not real. Uh,
Right.
we've created these things to say, hey, this is money. Now this is
Right.
money.
And we
But
assigned it a value, right? So we took, cotton and other types of fabric. We printed ink on it, and we said this represents this. So we
yeah,
all, as Americans, said this is the value of $1, and we all agreed on it. right? But then at the
Yes.
end of the day, that's still just paper. It's no different than, paper that we have here. It's just now we've added a value to it. So we want to do the
Yes.
same thing with the life insurance, right? Helping people understand that yes, it's just a death benefit. Yes, it's just this money you're going to receive. But let's take it a step further. Now let's define what it really is. Let's add a value to it to
Yes.
perpetuate your beliefs, your legacy, what you
Mm-hmm.
want for your children. And I want to touch on something real quick here because I
Go ahead.
I think it's very important, right?
Mhm.
Because in this area, Marcella, you know that a lot of our clients are single and don't have any children. And yes, they're very prosperous, but sometimes
Mhm.
they can easily think they have nothing to give. And that is
Yes.
so far from the truth. I can't
Yes.
tell you the number of conversations I've had with people my age, older, younger, that have
Yeah.
so much to give,
Mhm.
so much. And I would even say that they have even more to give without
Yes.
having a family than the family's not limiting them at all. Not
Mhm.
having a husband, not having a wife, not having children, it's not limiting their ability to give back. So
Yes.
that whole thought of, oh, I don't have a legacy, no, that's not the case at all. Everyone has something they can bring to the table. And there's a lot of single folks out there that can bring a legacy to the table because they're doing something now. Imagine you can elevate that even when
Mhm.
you're not here anymore. Take it, you're not even here anymore, and yet your legacy is taking it to another level.
Mhm.
It's a
Yes.
whole nother level. That's powerful.
It is. It is. And that's existing. And I think back again at the definition, how other people will experience your existence. And the things that's the two words that stand out to me is experience and existence.
Distance, yes.
Yes. So it's the experience that they will have from you with you. And there's so much tied to that. And then your existence, your being, everything about you now and when you're gone, you will continue to exist even when you're not physically here.
Hmm.
And that's how, again, reframing our mindset to understand that and not getting caught up in what society says living is,
Hmm.
actually being who you were created to be, who God created you to be. When we tap into that inner power of ours, of truly existing, that's when we'll truly be able to understand what we're talking about, to truly develop a legacy mindset. It's
Yes.
tapping into the power of your existence and then doing the things that are necessary for people to experience your existence in an impactful way that will carry on for hopefully generations to come. And you
Yes.
don't have to be a mom or dad with children that you bore on your own. Your existence can be carried on for generations regardless.
Exactly.
That's what we have to learn to understand.
Exactly. And I think we can even dive into that more in one of our upcoming discussions where we could talk about the death benefit and how that could perpetuate your legacy,
Yeah.
even when you don't have a nuclear family, that you can still
Yeah.
pass that legacy on because there's so many different avenues. And I'm chomping at the bits, but this is not the time for that.
I know. I know. We'll give them something to look forward to.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. But, at the end of the day, Marcella, you said it the best that in order to create a legacy, you first have to understand what are your values, what is important to you that you want to pass on, right? So,
Mhm.
because again, it's not just about you, but when your physical existence is not here, your legacy, the belief, your inner core, the who you are
Mhm.
carries on, right?
Yes.
So, like, I look at your family, for example, and I see Daniel and Gabrielle, and I see all that you have manifested before they were even born. Before they were even born, I'm literally watching today what you had manifested before they were even in your womb.
Mhm.
Why? Because you already knew what you wanted, you laid it out, it was very clear to
Yeah.
you.
Very
And now
intense.
that legacy is continuing.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
we talk about legacy from this life insurance perspective, but oh my goodness, it's so huge when people really grasp what legacy stands for and how it
Yes.
starts with you, the individual, and understanding who you are and your values and what you want. It
Yes.
changes the paradigm. It really does.
Huge. Like a whole shift will
Yeah,
happen. And you won't look at things the same.
exactly.
Because I think, and you hit it as you were just kind of sharing about me with my kids. If there's only one word I would want people to describe me in, it would be intentional. Like that's the word I would want to use. And I've been blessed enough that people actually have used that. I'm like,
Yes,
yes,
I would
you know,
agree with that. I would
intentional.
agree with that.
Yeah, being intentional is huge for me.
Mhm.
And I think that's what I want for others. I mean, really, I'm here to serve. And I always tell people that my purpose in life, like if there's one thing I'm doing, is to teach people how to develop the behavior to build their legacies. So it's about teaching people how to develop their behavior the way I was able to do it. And
Yes.
part of that, a huge part of that is just being intentional with everything you do, everything you say, everything you think, the way you move, and being intentional with the life God gave you. And I bring that up because even as it ties to life insurance, it's it's such an important tool, but again, there's no intentionality tied to it. And that's why it gets lost in translation. That's why people
Yes.
feel the way they feel about it, because it's, oh, well, this person says this about it, or this person says I don't need it, or this person says I just need this kind, or this person, and then it gets confusing and you don't know what you want. And, it's just all over the place.
Well,
Um,
you just hit on a very important topic right there because I it's fine when we're working with clients and let's say a client has a new client we're working with and they have an existing life insurance policy.
okay.
And let's say for this exercise that the policy they have does not meet their needs. The
Hmm.
first thing I tell the person that the client is that agent that sold you that product probably did exactly what they were taught. And
Hmm.
I almost never blame the agent. Not to say that it could be their fault, what I
Hmm.
blame is the industry because
Hmm.
the industry is just selling a product and that's all they focus on. Sell the product, find out how much they can pay a month, how much do they want, how much they can pay a month, and pass it on. You're on to the next person. And if you're coming from that perspective of just wanting life insurance just to have it, okay, that's the lane. But people I talk to, they want more than that. They already have an understanding, even if they don't know they're talking about legacy, they already have an understanding of it. And when I see that, then a life insurance agent is not the right person for you. Okay,
Hmm.
there's a big difference, right? You
Yeah.
don't need someone selling you a product. You need someone
Yes.
that help you define what your purpose is, help you define what your legacy is, and then use the right product or strategy to build upon it. And I think
Yeah.
that's what makes us so different is
Yeah.
that we're really focusing on, okay, let's look at your situation. What do you want?
Yeah.
What if you had all the money in the world? Okay, so now we're not thinking about how much you have the money. What would that allow you to do?
Yeah.
And then they roll it off, right? Well, I want to do this and do this and do this. Okay, now you created a plan, right? Now let's find the right instrument that would facilitate the plan. So we prioritize the plan, the legacy over the product. The industry focus on the product, and that's
Mhm.
it. So I just wanted to touch on that because someone can sit here and say, "Oh, I love what Mark and Marcella are saying. Let me go to my agent and talk about this."
Yes.
They're going to be like, they're going to tell you off the bat, "Okay, well, how much life insurance do you want? How much you want to spend?" That's not the conversation you need to be having,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. Which we're definitely going to touch on again, the conversations that need to be had in
Yes.
this thing. And it's so important because, like you said, we're not here to sell you. When you understand your why. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to guide you through your values, to finding your true purpose for money, for truly getting deep within what is your why. When
Mhm.
you are clear on your why and your what, we don't have to sell you anything. You're going to
Exactly.
be coming to us saying, okay, this is what I need. Okay. I mean, this is what I need. Okay. What does this look like? This is what I want.
Hmm.
This is my why. This is what my dreams are. This is what's important to me. And then we can guide you in the structure to
Exactly.
that. But it's not about selling. And obviously, I don't have a problem with sales, people who are in the selling. I don't mind that because I don't mind buying. So
Right.
I have to buy, so I don't mind you selling. But that's not the conversation. What we're talking about is so many people, again, as you brought up, so many people actually don't like they look at life insurance as the sales. Okay, they're gonna sell me this life insurance policy for whatever reason. Or on the other end, like you said, the life insurance agent is just there to sell to the person. So you have two parties. One is just interested in selling, and the other one's not interested in being sold to, right? And you have this clash here. But again, what's really happening when you dig deeper into human behavior is there's a lack of clarity on what you want. So
Exactly.
you don't know what you want as a consumer. And when you don't know what you want, when someone is trying to sell you something that you don't know about, you feel unsure, you feel
Right.
shaken. And therefore, there's a clash there. And when the life insurance agent doesn't know what you're not speaking up for what you want, then they're just
Exactly.
sell your product. Like, what else are they going to do? But
Exactly.
like I said, like you said, we operate differently because our job is to help you build wealth with purpose. And in order to build wealth with purpose, we have to help you understand the purpose
Exactly.
of wealth.
Exactly.
Why we're a holistic coaching and investment firm. The
Right.
holistic part covers the whole you. Uh,
Exactly.
uh,
It's funny how I'll have a conversation with someone. They're like, "Oh, I want to make lots of money." I don't get this too often, but when I do hear it, I chuckle because
yeah.
to me, it's like throwing a bunch of coins at the wall and hoping something sticks. Right? You're just like just throwing it out there. So what does that mean? You're not intentional, right? We just go back to your word, right? You have to
Thank
be
you.
very intentional. So I tell them, okay, so you want money to do what?
Hmm.
You know, and sometimes Marcy, Marcella, it takes some work to really help people really be intentional on
Yes.
what they want, right? So
Yeah.
when we're coming to you about developing and designing and structuring a legacy for you,
Hmm.
I have to go back to your word. It's about being intentional, right? You
Yes.
have to be laser focused. Hey, this is what I want.
Yes.
So our first client we talked about in the beginning of this, when he
Hmm.
was like, I'm going to leave them to fend for themselves. Well, again, we were new in the business, right? So we didn't have the tools and the knowledge that we have now, right? Because if that was to happen today, it'll be a whole different experience, right? But we would dig in deep and help him understand what is his purpose, right? What is
Uh-huh.
so we wouldn't even talk about, well, you know, would you want to leave money for for your family and everything? No, that's the wrong question, right? So we will dive into what is your purpose? What do you want? What do you
Yes.
want for your children? What do you want for your wife? And in answering that, you are literally telling us how to create the right structure, the right vehicle for your needs. And guess
Yeah.
what? Life insurance can do that, you know, and they don't even know it. Like they don't even realize it because they're looking at it from a product. That's
Ex-
all they're seeing. They're not realizing that, hey, this is a solution
Yes.
to,
Yeah.
to a problem I didn't even know I had.
There you go. It's a solution to a problem you did not realize you had. And as we talk about values and purpose, as you know, we have a process, and one of the steps in our process to building comprehensive financial plans is that we take people through a values assessment. And I recall a values assessment that I was conducting with someone, and in that I helped them identify their five core values. That's what we do. And whenever I come across people who in which certain things are their five core values, it really hits. So I believe one person, education was on there, right? So they
Yes.
want to make sure they have the money, their kids get a proper education. That was just important to them. And we don't really talk products or anything when we're going through this process. It's really about just helping them identify, like we said. But obviously, there's things that stick out because whenever I think of education, again, in planning, if anything was to ever happen, to someone prematurely, like a parent, prematurely, if they state that education is a value, then it is so important that they have the means to be able to provide for their child's education if they're no longer here.
Right.
And so that's automatically telling me then, oh, life insurance is important to you. Like that's
Right.
one of those, like life insurance is important to you because
Right. Exactly. Right. Because what? So education is not important because education stops if something was to happen to you. That okay, now I'm not worried about education for my kids anymore. They're okay. So as long as I'm alive, education is important. But if something happens to me, I'm leaving them to fend for themselves. I've never heard a
exactly.
parent say that. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
It's
no.
always like, no, I want to make sure they're covered. So like you said, even when you're going through that value assessment, which I love, by the way, I think
Yeah.
it's so important for people to realize that they're literally answering or addressing
Yeah.
the very need that they want through life insurance, right?
Yes.
So again, it goes right back to helping them see what they want, helping them discover their legacy, right? Because
Yes.
the education is a part of that legacy, right? So
Yes.
helping them discover their legacy, define it, have it intentional, and then showing them, helping them discover that wow, life insurance can give me this and more. You
Yes.
know, so yeah,
Yes.
I just love that story. I can't tell you how important that value assessment, helping people understand their core values. And when you line up your core values with your legacy, it just
Yes.
helps you to see all the possibilities that are out there, including life insurance, and how
Mhm.
that could facilitate that in the way that gives you peace of mind, right? I mean, imagine if something was to happen to you while you're alive, you know, if something happens to me, what I want for my children, this example, will still be carried out. And if
Mhm.
it's not my children, my grandchildren. If it's
Yes.
not my grandchildren, that's a whole different conversation. But if there's so many avenues to give you peace of mind. And I think
Mhm.
that's another avenue. I think people don't realize that life insurance can actually add peace of mind with the legacy planning.
That's huge.
Hmm.
That's huge. And that's the thing. People really, there are two things that I've realized that people want more than anything: peace of mind and freedom. And
Yes,
honestly, freedom is the number one thing.
I
Again, when
agree.
these values assessments and the words they choose, again, I've been doing it a while, so I can see that, oh, you think it's wealth that you want, but it's freedom that you want. You
Exactly,
want
right?
wealth
It goes
or
back, I want money. What is it gonna do, right?
exactly. You want freedom so you can have peace of mind. You want freedom to, the freedom is what we desire. I
Yes.
believe that we desire more than anything else as humans. And so I think that's a part of the legacy. When we're free, when we truly feel free, we have that peace of mind. And when those, you just know people who walk around in peace,
Mhm.
who walk around with a sense of freedom, that things are taken care of. They exude a certain type of, there's just a presence about them.
Yes.
And that allows them to freely open themselves up so that other people can experience their existence in a different way while they're alive.
Yes.
And I know we're saying all of this, but when you have things in place, like okay, got my life insurance taken care of, got things taken care of, all that provides peace of mind. All of that allows you to walk with a bit more confidence, a
Yes.
bit more clarity. And I don't think people
Yes.
know that. I know we've experienced it after working with clients. How free they feel, how peaceful they feel. And
Yes.
it changes the way people experience your existence.
Yes.
And that is all a part of why we do what we do. So that's really the purpose of this conversation today, is to, as we wrap up here, staying with an hour, and I want to let you leave with any closing thoughts before we wrap up. But it is really, this episode, we really wanted to hit more on the mindset and the understanding of legacy as we dive deep in to life insurance in episodes to come. But like I said earlier, it's about preparing your mindset for understanding truly what you want and what you're planning for to allow people to you, experience your existence in a powerful and impactful way. So, Mark, any last thoughts?
I mean, I just want to say that this conversation, again, you and I talk about this all the time. So I'm very fortunate and I feel blessed that we can take our conversations and now share it with you, the audience here that's taking advantage of this and realizing that there's so much more out there. And I want to just double back on something that we've been saying here, that our job is really to help facilitate you, the individual or couple or family, on what your purpose is, what your core values are. And then from there, we can build upon that. So as much as we talk about all these different products and strategies and everything, at the end of the day, our first priority is to help you define what your purpose is. And when you discover that, it just opens the door to possibilities, and it gives you, and I love how you gave the illustration about walking more confident, because now you have that freedom, right? So we help you discover your purpose. We help you facilitate your purpose. We help to structure it so that at the end of the day, you have freedom, you have peace of mind, you have confidence. And in today's world, to me, that's lacking more than ever, right? So I think we have to fight, we have to stand for freedom and peace of mind for our clients, for listeners like you, to really make sure you understand it's still out there. You can still have peace even in 2022. As much as everything's going on, you can still have peace, but you have to understand your purpose. You have to understand not just your purpose, but how that can create a legacy so that your children or your beneficiaries can also learn how to have their own purpose. So that's all I want to leave with there, because we're going to have a lot of fun these next couple of weeks.
Yes, this is so great. I'm so glad we could do this. And thank you everyone for tuning in and watching this episode of Building Your Legacy with Life Insurance. And make sure you follow us and stay tuned for our weekly drops on this series and for the month of September. And we look forward to discussing this with you again next week.